This week in CIST 1530, we'll look at lesson 11, editing video. In this chapter, we'll look at creating a video timeline in Photoshop, add the media to video groups in the timeline panel, add motion to still images, animate the type and effects using keyframes. We'll also add transitions between video clips. We'll include audio in the video file, and also rendering the video. Now, before I start talking about editing videos in Photoshop, I do want to point out that Adobe Creative Cloud does give you access to more powerful video editing tools such as Adobe Premiere, or you may use After Effects as well. First, we're going to look at the timeline and the controls that you will have in Photoshop. If you do not see your timeline located at the bottom, you can go to Window and then here turn on the timeline. Now, first we're going to look at some of the controls of the timeline. For example, if this is the play button, go to the next frame, go to the previous frame. We also have playback options that we can set. Some other parts of the timeline. This is the playhead. This is where the video is currently at in your time. Looking at the videos, the images of it, you'll see that this currently is a video clip. Actually, click over on this one. So we can see here the difference. The videos will be a blue clip in our timeline, while the still images will be this purple color. We can also add audio tracks. So we do have a song that is playing, audio is playing in this video. This button here is our render button. This will render our video. This is our current time. That tells us where our playhead is at in our timeline. This is our frame rate. So this tells us how many frames per second is being viewed. And over here is our timeline magnification slider. And as we adjust, it's just the timeline. We can zoom in or out on the timeline as needed. One thing with the controllers also, as I was saying, this goes to the previous frames, and this will go to our first frame. So this is like starting over again. Okay, so we can play the video. You see that we have added different effects to the images. Transitions be applied as they are fading from one to another. One thing I want to point out too is that when you're playing your video, if you need to stop this, you can press the space bar to stop your video, or you can also press the stop button in there. You can also click on the playhead and drag this by holding the left mouse button down and dragging it to scrub across your video. I did want to point out that there are some different video standards. The NTSC, DV, PAL. PAL is something you're really going to see more in the European nations. We're also going to use HDV These are the presets we're going to use because these are clips that we're going to be using were shot on an iPhone. I do want to point out though that the video editing that we're looking at in Photoshop, it is limited. Okay, so if you're getting into a lot of video editing, I really recommend looking into Adobe Premiere Pro. You know, if you're looking for more advanced animation, look into After Effects. All right, so when we're starting this, we're going to look at create a new file. So I'm going to go to File and create New. Now you'll see that I've got all kinds of different recent saved photos, prints, film and video I can choose as well. All right, so in the film and video, I am going to choose the HDTV 720p. So this is going to give my presets for my size and also my pixels per inch. So my blank document I'm going to create. So I've created my blank canvas. Notice I've got a blank timeline. Saved as untitled. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as the 11 working. All right, so now I'm ready to import my files. If I already have them open in Photoshop, so these are the ones I am going to import along with a beach song into my new project. First, I'm going to choose Windows, Workspace, and I'm going to choose Motion. Okay, so this is going to set up my Motion workspace. Next, we're going to click on the Zoom tool and choose Fit Screen. So now we can see the entire canvas located here. So I'm going to create a video timeline by clicking the Create Video Timeline button. You see that I've got a layer 0 and an audio track has now been created in my timeline. So now I'm ready to add my media. So in the timeline, you'll see that I have this icon here that will show you like a film reel. When I click on this, I can choose to add media. So from here, I'm going to choose the images I'm going to import. So in this case, I'm going to import the photo assets numbered 1 through 6. So I'm going to click the first one, hold down Shift, and click the 6, and click Open. So now my images have been imported into my timeline. So notice they're all on the same track. So by doing this video, Photoshop has imported all of these on the same track. And the group has now been named Video Group 1. So we can expand this. And in here you'll see that you'll have options that you'll be able to set for each individual one. So you'll be able to set keyframes. Keyframes are like a placeholder. It's where you're telling Photoshop something is going to happen at this point. Whether you're changing the position of an image, or you're changing the starting or ending position, the size, the opacity, adding styles to this. We can add keyframes in the video using this options here. Okay, so we can also, like I said, zoom in or out. So we got a layer 0, and this is was created when we created the project, so we don't need this one. So we're going to simply click on the layer and hit delete to remove this. We can also click in our layers panel and drag it to the trash can. So once again, Photoshop's giving you multiple ways to achieve the same task. You'll also notice that I can select in the layers panel, as you'll see the white line that'll appear around the layers or the clip selected, or I can click on those in the timeline. You'll see that it selects them in the layers panel as well. We can also change the duration. So sometimes these clips, we can edit the clips down to the exact size we want. So to edit the length of the clip or the duration, all right, first of all, this is going to be measured in seconds and frames. So for example, if we have one that is measured out as 3 seconds, it will appear as 0, 03. But if we have like 2:25, that's 2 seconds and 25 frames. Now to resize the duration, change the duration. So we see here that we're at right now 2 seconds, but as we look at our timeline, now we're at 2 seconds and 10 frames. So if we need to adjust this, so we're going to start with the family. We're going to adjust this. We want it to be 3 seconds. So we want it to end at this point. All right, so the easy way to edit the video clips is when you move your mouse pointer, you'll see you have this icon here that will allow you to click and resize or change the duration of your clips. Okay, so now we've resized this, we changed the duration so that this clip is now 3 seconds. And we'll see that this one, clip 2, has been slid over, so now it starts at 3 seconds. Now, keep in mind though that when you change the duration, it does not change the speed of the clip when you change this way. So what you're doing is you're just removing part of the clip. So we are going to remove all of these and change the durations down to 3 seconds for every clip. Now, notice in our timeline that we've jumped from 8 to 10. Okay, so in this case, I want to make sure that I zoom in so I can see the 9 seconds. Now, you'll also notice that you can see where you're at on your timeline, not only on the timeline itself, but also in the down here as well, in the frame rate, the current time selection. Sorry, in the current time selection, you can also see the time as well. So this allows you to get more precise with your time. All right, so now I've got all my clips down to 3 seconds apiece. Expand this. All right, so we'll go back to the family layer. So now we're going to look at adding motion. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our playhead is back at the beginning. So we're going to look at adding motion to this image here, this family picture of our family. So we see we have the little triangle in the upper right hand corner of the clip, and we have no motion set. And so we can come in and set these preset motions. So in this case, we're going to choose the pan and zoom, which brings us to our options that we can set. In this option, we are going to set the we're going to first choose the zoom in or the resize to fill canvas. We're going to make sure that this is selected. Now to close this, we're just going to click on anywhere empty area. Okay, so now we've resized that image to fit our canvas. We want to make sure that we put back on no motion. And so we're not adding motion to this image. We're not going to look at animating our text. We're going to add text to this image and animate the text for this image. As we see with our ending document, we're going to add the text of beach day. All right, so let's start off with adding a new video group to our timeline. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click the arrow beside our playlist and click New Video Group. So that's going to add another layer to our timeline. So we're going to add another timeline. And this is a way you can use this to place multiple images on top of each other, or multiple text on top of an image. You can add effects to this as well. All right, so from here, I'm going to choose the horizontal top tool. And here, I'm going to choose somewhere around here to place our placeholder text. And I'm going to type out the words beach day. Now with this, I'm going to make sure I choose the correct font. So I'm going to choose the Myrid Pro. I'm going to set the size to 600. I'm going to set the font color to white. And over in the layers panel, I'm going to change the opacity for this to 25%. Now, once I've done this, I want to make sure this only appears on this image. So I need to make sure that I change the duration to where it matches the first image. Now, even though it's off the screen here, I am going to change that and animate this so that when it does play, it will appear as this. So now I'm going to click the arrow. Sorry, the arrow here to expand the video group 2. Excuse me. So I'm going to click the icon, this little icon here next to the transform property with the playhead at the beginning. So I'm going to choose to add a keyframe. This is going to set my initial keyframe for the layer. Okay, so you'll see a keyframe and it'll appear on the timeline. Now, going over some of the options that we have appear here. We do have these that'll let us jump to the next keyframe, or go back to a keyframe, or this will allow me to add another keyframe or remove a keyframe from my timeline. So by adding a keyframe, now I can come in and I can move this text. So I want to put this to where the top of my letters just barely reach the top of the image. So this is where it'll be at the beginning of the movie. So I want to drag this so that the B is just barely visible. So when the video starts playing, this is where you'll be at. So now I'm going to move down to the end of my clip. So the end of my clip is actually going to be at 2 seconds and 29 frames. So in here, I'm going to add another keyframe. And so at this point, I'm going to change the position of the text. And I'm going to scroll this all the way over till at this point, the Y is just barely visible over my image. Okay, so now once I've done this, I can scroll across my image to see how this is going to look when my video is played. Okay, so I see that I don't like the way the D is on this. So I can edit this by going back to that keyframe Sorry, it was froze up for a second. And I can adjust this. So now I can see how my image looks going across. Notice I still don't like the way that appears. All right, so I'm happy with that. So now notice at the end here, I did have a little jump where it starts going up, okay, because a keyframe was added. So what I can do here is I am going to remove this keyframe. And notice I do have another keyframe's been moved to 3 seconds. So I'm going to remove that keyframe as well. Go back to the 2 seconds and 29 keyframes. So now I'm going to reposition this and my Photoshop video has frozen up. There we go. Photoshop editing video is very resource intense. All right, so now that I've got my beach day text scrolling across the screen that I'm happy with, and my keyframe is set in the correct position, I can now move on. All right, so I'm going to now go to the Dog at the Beach video clip. So we have our video of our dog running into onto the beach. We'll look at our ending file. See that we'll be adding effect to this video clip. So I'm going to close all these other ones. So we only have our files that we need to work with. All right, so working with video files, we're adding an effect to this. We're going to move our playhead to the front of the video clip. And then here we're going to come into our adjustment panel, and we're going to add a black and white adjustment layer. See, it's going to be clipped into this video. So we're going to make sure that in this, we're going to have the tint selected. So we're just going to add a tint to the video. One thing, you can change the color of the tint. In this area here, we're going to leave this as it is. Now you can experiment with this. You can change this to black and white. Okay, so this is a quick, easy way to add a filter to make it look a little bit like an older clip. So now we see that it has been applied to just that layer. All right, so next we're going to work with adding a zoom effect. We're going to animate this image. So we're going to make sure we're right at the beginning of the clip. We're going to choose the motion options. So in here, we're going to now choose zoom. All right, so from the zoom, we've got some options here. We can zoom in, zoom out. We can resize this. We also have a reference points for the image where we can start to zoom in or zoom out on. Okay, so we're going to choose the upper left-hand corner of the zoom. Make sure the resize and fill canvas is selected. And then once we're done with this, we're just going to click off of it. So now we'll see that as we scrub over this, we now have a zoom in effect that has been applied to this layer. So editing video in Photoshop is fairly easy. Once again, it is something that is limited as far as it's the power of options you have that compared to some program like Adobe Premiere Pro. All right, cross motion effect or creating a motion effect. We're going to add a transformation. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this to effect to give the appearance of one image fading into the other. So we're going to move to the front of the jumping clip. So we're going to choose the move tool, and while we have the move tool selected, we're going to press shift, and we're going to drag the image down so that we can see the top of the hands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit screen. Make sure that image is selected. And maybe something where you have to let go of the mouse button. As you see, it kept jumping on me. So this will be our final position for this image. So from this area, we're going to now add a keyframe. We're going to expand the video group. And in here, we're going to add a keyframe for position. All right, so we'll add the keyframe for position. We see that we have the keyframe been added. So from here, we're going to move actually, let me delete that keyframe because we're going to go to the end of the clip. At 1429, we're going to add this keyframe. So this is where we're going to end up with the image. And we're going to start by going back to the beginning, 12 seconds, and add another keyframe for position. And what we're going to do here is we're going to now use the move tool. With the image selected, hold down shift, and we're going to drag the image until the feet are near the bottom of the canvas. So as we now scrub over the image, we'll see that it does pan through the image. All right, so next we're going to look at the pan and zoom effect. So we're going to move to the first frame of the sunset. This is our clip. We're going to click on the motion options. We're going to choose pan and zoom. Now we see some options in here. Once again, we'll make sure to resize the canvas. We do have our zoom in, zoom out. We also can set the degrees. As well. So clicking off of that, we're going to leave this where it's at. So we now see that we can have a pan and zoom. So pan is where we move from left to right, or right to left, and zoom is where we go in to the image. All right, transitions allows us to move from one clip to another, so it's not just a jump, it's a gradual transition from one to another. So we're going to go back to our first frame with our family. Now we're going to look at our transitions. All right, so for these transitions, we'll see these options to select a transition and apply. Okay, so some of these we got fade, crossfade, fade with black, fade with white, and we can also set the duration of the transition. So we're going to choose crossfade, and we're going to set the duration for this to be 0.25 seconds. Now, to apply these, we are going to click these and drag these so that they are on our timeline in between our clips. And we'll see that we have this little icon up here now saying that there is a transition between the two clips. And we see it does do a crossfade. So in your project, you will go through and add transitions through each one of these. You will have different transitions that you will apply between the clips as well. Now to add audio to your track, we see that we do have an audio track listed down here. So we're going to click on the music icon and choose add audio. From here we will come in and choose beach song. Double click and we'll see that it's been added to our track. This is something that we can also we can edit the audio as well. So we can choose this. You see this audio clip is a lot longer than what we are wanting. Now at the end of the clip we do have some options here. We can adjust the volume. Now we can choose the fade in or fade out option. So how long will it take for the audio to fade in, how long will it take to fade out. We can also, with this selected, we can also cut this into a couple of clips. So we move our playhead to where we're wanting to stop the audio. In this case, it should be around the 18 seconds mark. I'm going to drag this back over. and move to the end of that clip. Now you'll see that my time is off on these. So when I added the transition, this was adjusted. So you would need to adjust time on these. All right, so I'm going to go back to the end of the clip. With the audio still selected, so I'm going to look at some of the options I have here. Okay, so I do have the option to mute or unmute the track. I do render videos. And I can also, this is where I'm going to cut this into two clips. So by doing this, I can cut this, so I can edit the sound down very quickly. When I select this and hit delete, so I'll cut down the video, the audio to fit just the size of the video. Once again, I can mute the audio. I can also right click and choose mute audio here as well. So now, after I've put the audio in, I've added all my transitions, I need to render my video. To do this, I'm going to click the render video. And you see it will take a little time. In here, I can give it the name of the file, choose my location. I do have some audio coders. In this case, I'm going to leave it as the Adobe Media Encoder. I do have some presets here also I can choose. So if I want to save it for a preset, for example, to put it in YouTube, Android phones, Apple phones. Okay, so I can use the presets here to change the settings. For example, in your lesson, you will change it to YouTube, high definition, HD, 720, 29.97. That tells you the frame rate. So then you'll click render, and it will render your video. What this is doing is creating your video. You'll see that it gives you the progress where it's exporting the video. So that's going to be the end of chapter 11, rendering, creating video in Photoshop. Once again, they are better options, but this will work for a quick video to edit if you need to edit one.